Hello, my friends. I hope you had a fantastic day or night wherever you are. This week, I'm back with a brand new interview. We'll be talking to Johnny. Now, Johnny helps nurture or create nurture sequences for email marketers and people who work in the online space, coaches, service providers, etc. But we wanted to talk about why email marketing might be an option for you this year and how it could potentially increase the likelihood that you're going to be able to sell. It is whatever you do and be able to serve those right clients for you and create that demand in 2024. So thank you ever so much for coming back and joining me once again. I'll hand over to past me from last year to conduct this interview, and I'll be back very, very soon with some brand new content, and I'll see you in just a moment's time.
Hi everyone, my name is Johnny. I am an agency owner who helps other businesses, mainly coaches, consultants, and online service providers, increase the amount of leads that they get that are higher quality. So I basically help you make more money through lead generation tactics.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for the time, Johnny. And I think your space, my space, the world at the moment is a very interesting place to be in business. I think there's a lot of people who, would it be fair to say, are definitely in need of sales, but potentially are kind of questioning how they go about doing that, would you say, at the moment?
Yeah. I think on being online and social media has allowed anyone to be able to go out there and market themselves. The problem is the fact that now everyone believes they're an expert at doing it, which isn't really the case most of the time. At the end of the day, the way you market yourself and the way you're going to get leads for your business may not be the most effective way someone else can go and do it themselves. So it's about finding the right balance for your business itself.
Okay, I mean that opens up a really, I think, poignant or powerful question, right? Which is, how do we find an audience member, myself, etc.? How do we find this then authentic? I think that's the word you're kind of implying, is this authentic marketing voice or this marketing knowledge or this. How do we create these leads? Because I think there's a lot of people who, unfortunately, are subscribing to there is no work out there, it would be very easy for me to go and give up and get a job kind of ideology at the moment because of the stresses, the strains, the concerns, the worries about what's happening. And I'm sure we've both had our own business experience with that reality. But I think now especially is the time when I hate saying it, but the true blood entrepreneurs will really come into their own, because they'll be able to do that grit. They'll be able to really dig in and say, actually, no, this is going to work and this is how we're going to move forward. I mean, just to reiterate the question, how does someone, I guess, whether that's a tactic, whether that's, we're going to do email, and I'm sure we'll get into those later, or we're going to do content, we're going to do marketing, etc. But where does someone start with, asking themselves that authentic question to really understand how can they market effectively, but also how can they market authentically to themselves as well?
First, you need to understand something. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. Like, business isn't easy. If it was, everyone would be in a business instead of working for someone else as an employee. It doesn't make sense to think otherwise. So it really kind of irks me whenever people are like, oh, I've done this for about a few weeks and it's not working. And I'm like, but you've only done it for a few weeks. If it takes a few weeks to get successful at something, then everyone would be doing it. It doesn't make sense for you to say that. What it does make sense for you to do is to test and try multiple things, maybe not at the same go, but try doing multiple things at the same time. I mean, at the same time or different times, and see what works best for you. Because I'm really good at email marketing, but I know that I'm not as good at like text posts or content creation all the time. The only reason why it looks like I'm really good at content creation is because I've built a habit up of doing it. I forced myself to go out of my comfort zone and continually do it. And now I get leads for my content creation as well, which I'm really happy about, but it wasn't easy in the beginning. With email marketing, it took me like a few months to literally get my first client, which is quite quick. But once I started getting clients with it, I started becoming more consistent, and it happened over and over again. So my main advice to anyone who's starting like a business or who's looking to get leads and stuff like that, just understand your mindset is literally the foundation of everything before you go forward. And if you're in the beginning thinking, I'm going to get my leads in the first month, or I'm going to get sales in the first month, without actually trying and testing multiple things, you might be in for a rude awakening. Like just understand it's going to take some time. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that, and I think it's something that, especially when things are tighter, when things are in more concerning ideologies or concerning realities for those listening, I think we can be very, we're going to cut it because it's not working, right? And the way I look at it in that respect is, okay, but what if you're that one video away? What if you're that one email away? What if you're that, etc., right? And I think, there's a lot of fear potentially. There's a lot of talk around where the economy is potentially going to go and etc. And I think there's some things we can discuss there, of course, but I think it's about understanding, okay, well, what's worked previously, and then also understanding that yes, that might be the truth, and yes, that might be the reality, but what's in line with, I guess, your authentic personality, what your vision is, etc., and that might change. I've talked about it within content, and I'm sure you have, and I've seen you talk about it a little bit as well. Is about being that, as you've already alluded to, that authentic self, and making sure you articulate the correct way for you, right? And the correct way for you may not be the same for me, and vice versa. But I think that and for the unfortunate reality for a lot of business owners might be, for a period of time during this period, it might be better for them to get a job, right? Now that might be the answer. Now, I'm not saying that should be or shouldn't be. That's a very personal decision. But I think when it comes down to, are you willing to do what is necessary to make sure that the business succeeds? Are you willing to take that uncomfortable step, as you've already talked about, whether that's doing content, whether that's starting email marketing, whether that's doing video for the first time, whether that's etc., etc. Maybe that's downscaling or losing an office, or having to reorganize your organization in such a way where you're working with more freelancers than employees, whatever that ends up being, to protect that cash flow, protect that cash potentially, is, or the other way around, of course, as well, right? Are you pushing more aggressively into the market? Are you taking that higher risk? I mean, what's your view? If you were talking to a client, like what should someone look to do? Is there, in your view, like a kind of golden solution in the respect to, you do this and then, things will continue to get better for you, or things will continue to kind of flourish for you? Or is it kind of more tactical and you need to really think, okay, how are we going to move forward, and what's the best decision in line? My view is in line with that vision for that person.
I'm going to answer that in two parts. It's not a one size fits all for everyone, mainly because when you are just starting out, your best bet is literally activity. It's action. You need to take action as much as you can, as fast as you can, so you can test, you can learn, you can find out what you like doing and what you're good at doing, and kind of double down on that afterwards. And once you've been doing that for a good period of time, you're getting results, but you want to streamline. That's when you implement more of the strategy-based things into it. Like, okay, so I'm seeing I will post 10 times a month right now. That's once every 3 days. I'm getting 3 of the leads from the month, and then they're paying me $2,000 a month. And if I increase the amount of posts I'm doing, I might be able to get more clients through the door that way. So I don't need to do email marketing as much, or I don't need to do paid ads as much if I focus more on content creation. Because you've got the data to work with, you can create a strategy and a plan of action around that, instead of just throwing stuff at the wall continuously and hoping to see what sticks. So the first plan is always to do activity, see what you're good at, see what works for you, and then double down and do strategy afterwards. At least that's what I think. I don't know. What about you? How would you?
No, I completely agree, and I think sometimes we, as I alluded to earlier, I think sometimes we abandon the thing that has worked because it maybe isn't working necessarily right now. I think there's a difference when you have to create cash flow to fix a specific set of problems, and you have to maybe eat shit during that time. Sure,
that's a good way of putting it.
Fine,
yeah.
Right? But that's your understanding that that's what you need to do to stay alive, right? That you understanding that, okay, maybe I need to take a step back. Okay, maybe I need to look at my costs. Okay, etc., etc. That's a part of business, sure. But actually, I think sometimes it's very easy for us to, say, oh, I'm just going to pull everything because the market's got really difficult, right? And actually, I think that we should, of course, we should look at data. Yeah, of course, we should audit what we're doing. But I think as I alluded to earlier, the true entrepreneurs, the people who are willing to take the grit, that have that hunger, are going to find ways through. And, they're going to just keep going. There's no simple solution in my view. The simple solution and the ideology I've always followed is outwork the problem. Whatever the problem is, try to outwork it, whatever that means, right? If you're in a position where you don't need to generate cash, okay, great, fantastic. So you have, say, 3 months, 2 months, whatever it may be. Great, cool, right. But that doesn't mean you should take your foot off the gas. That means you can then say, okay, how can I now maybe use organic, maybe use paid ads, maybe use email marketing, etc., push that marketing element so that in 3 months I'm actually still good. Because we all sit here and say, oh, how are we making money today? And we should think about that, sure, but also how are you making money tomorrow? How you make money in 3 months? How are you making money in 6 months? How you make money in a year, right? And sometimes I think, especially when we do content, we do email marketing, we do marketing as a whole, we can forget that actually we need to think long term as well, because otherwise it will become harder again. Because when you get there, if you haven't done that long-term work, like having a podcast, keeping up the brand, keeping up the visibility, etc., all these things, whichever tactic you're going to use to do that, because that's all it is at the end of the day, right? You're an email marketing specialist, I'm a video marketing specialist, but they're all tactics. What we both do is tactics, right? This is how I keep my visibility up. At the end of the day, we're trying to create the same nurture sequence, really, at the end of the day.
100%.
Right? We're saying, hey, we're really good at this. Hey, we're really passionate about this. Hey, do you need this thing? Fantastic. I tell you what, I do that thing. Maybe it's worth having a conversation with me. In crux, that's what we're doing in our marketing, really, right? How we go about doing that through our personality and how we build trust is where the nuance comes in, and why working with a specialist is probably more important. But that does bring me on to the question, because personally, I've never enjoyed it. Probably the reason why I don't do it, probably the reason why I'm semi-skeptical on it. And I alluded in the pre-show to you about, from what I've seen with email marketing, it can work. Absolutely, it can work. And so any marketing can work. But there is a lot of practices that, I wanted to discuss today, are mostly in the American culture. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. It's very, hey, buy my course. Hey, I'll give you an example. I was part of some networking circles a while ago, and they were kind of organized in such a way where it's like, if you don't have a list of 10,000, 100,000, whatever it may be, plus, we're kind of not really interested in talking to you. Now, maybe I got some bad apples. Okay, cool. But for me, it was like, yes, we're all here to run businesses, but where's that line, right? Because for me, I think they were trying to use it as a kind of a brute force sales tool, which I would argue it shouldn't be, not a nurture tool. I mean, how as layman's terms, at really basic terms, how should email marketing be used in your opinion?
Yeah, people need to realize something about email marketing. I usually explain it this way to my clients. Lead generation should be split into 4 different groups, but people usually only look at the first 3. So that's attraction, that's conversion, okay? That's getting them to decide to actually work with you. And the last one's promotion. Now, in terms of social media is great at attracting clients, but it's not brilliant at converting them. So it's great at getting everyone to look at your platform, seeing what you're doing, being like, oh, you're doing a lot of stuff. Like, you've worked with this many clients, you're getting these results. It's not brilliant at converting them because it's literally just a pop-up ad, really. People try to use email the wrong way. So what happens is people are trying to use email to attract people to their brand. But email's not great at that. In fact, it's quite intrusive. When you send your email out to about 10,000 people and none of them know who you are, and they can tell you've sent them an automated message, they just get annoyed with you. But if you send your message out to 100 people on your personalized email list, and it's actually geared towards the promise you gave them when they signed up to your email list, email marketing is fantastic at converting those people. And that's why it should really be used at the convert and the decision stage rather than just the attract stage. If you use that at the attract stage, you're gonna tick a lot of people off. In fact, you're gonna have a bad time while doing emails. You're gonna be like, no one's looking at my emails, it's not working. Well, because you haven't built a relationship with any of them. You're treating email marketing like you would your social media. With social media, you put content out there. You put your content on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and you're expected to just show it to loads of people who don't know you because you're trying to build that relationship. You're trying to attract them to your brand. But email marketing is meant to be the part behind that will convert the people you've attracted after they've signed up to your lead magnet or your webinar, or you've told them about your newsletter. Like you've actually got these people interested to the point where they've signed in to you sending them emails. If you send people emails that you find on the internet randomly, then they're not going to be as receptive. Like, how many times do you look in your inbox and see an email from someone you don't know about, and you have a smile on your face? It doesn't really happen.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, which I think, I mean, there's two elements there. I mean, number one, that's really valuable for the audience, I think, because I think so many people just want quick results of marketing, and as we've already alluded to, it's a relationship builder. It's part of, we look at networking, it's the same thing. We look at conversations, it's the same thing. Arguably, what we're doing now is starting to build that relationship potentially. What a YouTube channel is designed to do, etc. All of these long form elements, all of these longer form things are to continue that relationship build. And I think sometimes we can get especially when things are harder, especially when things are difficult. I think a business owner should have strategies to create short-term cash flow, mid-term cash flow, and long-term cash flow. I think that's a very healthy idea as a business owner, because it will allow you to become more resilient, because it means, okay, I have these skill sets when this is my reality. I need to create this amount of money in this short period of time. Okay, but then what about if I'm actually good for, as I said earlier, 3 months, etc. What do I then do then, right? And etc. And I think sometimes, we can look at the marketing space and it's very overwhelming for business owners at the beginning, because they have all these options. You've got people like myself who talk about video. You've got people like yourself talking about email. You've then got these other people talking about, you need to do a podcast. Oh, actually, no, you need to have a live workshop. No, actually, you need to do this. No, actually, you need to do that, etc. So how would you, if you were talking to someone either that you just built a relationship with or maybe a client, how do they choose? Because it's so overwhelming, right? Everyone's saying be on TikTok, do video, do podcasting, do, as I said previously. I mean, but how would you help someone choose?
Well, I would go for the low-hanging fruit first, and I would set things up in the background. So low-hanging fruit, you have platforms that have millions of people on it every day. You don't have to pay for any marketing to them. You pay with your energy and your time, or you could use ads, but ads don't work because ads are helpful when you have some form of traction behind your brand, some form of awareness. But when you use ads and then people look you up afterwards and see, wait, they don't have a following, they're not even participating online, they don't look as legit as they sound in their ads. They're less likely to buy. Obviously, people will buy with ads, but you need to understand, just don't give up on your whole organic strategy, because in other words, you're going to be wasting money. Now, social media allows you the chance to test and find out who your ideal audience is. If you have a product or an offer, create content around that and create content that's geared towards finding these right people. After that, build something valuable, have a lead magnet in place, and it's a lot easier than you would think it is. Like, you don't need to create anything too elaborate. If right now you don't have anything, just create a simple checklist or PDF and just advertise it to the people you want to get into your funnel. Not just anyone, the people you want to get into your funnel. Because you need to understand, your email list is a business asset. It's not the same as your social media platforms. Your social media platform is your advertising page, but your email list is a business asset. You want people in that email list that are potential buyers. That's who you're targeting. Once you get more interest from those people, start sending out sales letters. Like, this can be email newsletters every week or every 2 weeks. Or if you have a new product or new launch coming up, create a sequence, just kind of telling people about it and then getting them in. it's all about having the intention from earlier on instead of just kind of going with the flow. When you create content and you just get into this wheelhouse, this hamster wheel of just like, oh, I need to post today. You post, you engage. Great, you're getting traction for your business, but the traction's not doing anything for you if you don't have anything in the background actually helping you convert these people. And I know probably a lot of people are thinking, oh, but I convert people in the DMs, I convert people online. Yeah, you do, but correct me if I'm wrong. My point of view on this is you would always want to make it easier for your business to operate. And if putting a nurturing tool in place that allows you to take people off platform and convert them a lot easier, helps your business make more revenue in the long run, why are you not doing it? So the question isn't, oh, I convert people on social media. The question really should be, is this the best way for me to convert people?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also about understanding and being aware of where you are in business, right? Because we can sit here and talk about, as you talked about earlier, about, optimizing what we're doing, right? That comes from what would be described or could be described as a healthy business, right? One that's been around for a long time, is established, etc., etc., etc. But something else I wanted to talk about and touch on is the role a personal brand or a business brand would play in either any form of marketing or specifically in an email letter or an email newsletter, because I think so many people sometimes, they're like, oh yeah, of course I've got a brand, but they don't actually sit there and think about it and think, okay, but what does that actually mean? What is that, like when I say I have a personal brand, what does that mean, right? To me, is it who Colton is? Is it what my values are? Is it actually these are the ideal clients I want to connect with? And that's where these are the things they're gonna synergize with. So what role do you think a personal brand plays then? With that kind of when you're doing marketing in general, or if you're doing a nurture sequence for someone to streamline their conversion process?
I think personal branding is a lot more important than a lot of people actually want to care about, because it seems like a lot of work. There's a lot of coaches now saying, oh, you need to have a personal brand, and they'll show you. And there's a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, telling you what you should be doing. Now, for me, a personal brand isn't just who you are, what you do, what software you use, or what products you have, or what clients you work with. A personal brand for me is more about the way you make other people feel and other people think of you when they actually first encounter you, or when they encounter you as a business or person. Now, the way I like to think of it is I've positioned myself as someone who's an email expert, but someone who also does content creation and works with service providers and gets some results. But the only way I was able to do that was by putting out content that was going to be useful to them, and also showing parts of myself and my agency and my life. If I was just the person who was like just showing email tips continuously, I bet you any money most people wouldn't remember who I was, because there's loads of people creating content on that very thing. But the only reason why I get referrals or people message me in the DMs asking me questions is because they've seen my branding and they know that I would be able to help them based on the content I put out. So personal branding is so important because of personal branding, I'm able to get clients that aren't even through email. And most of my clients come through email marketing. So you need to have a long, hard think about how you want your audience to perceive you. If you don't intentionally think of that and you just start creating content for the sake of creating content, even though you're thinking in your head, I haven't started on my personal brand, that is your personal brand. Your personal brand will be someone who creates content that no one engages with.
I think that's a really important point to consider, because I think sometimes when we go to look at creating content, right, there's two ways to think about personal brand, right? Option A is what you described. Option B is, what if people don't like me, right? But the thing is, it's like, actually for me, personal brand is actually who you are, right? It's integral to who you are. It's what you stand for. It's what your values are, as I alluded to previously. But I think it's also important to understand that those values, those ideologies, those realities might change. But also, you should, for me personally anyway, I highly value transparency. Hence why within my content, I'm heavily transparent, right? I also value highly people who are able to be honest as a concept, right? Because I think it puts you in a stronger reality when working with someone if you're able to be honest and be able to say, look, I made a mistake here, or look, there was this issue, or look, there was this problem, but this is how I've tried to remedy it, or this is how I've tried to solve it. Because, I'm sure you've had it, I've had it. When we're doing complicated sequences, or when we're doing ads, or when we're doing complicated productions, or whatever it may be, there's going to be issues. It's not always going to be plain sailing, right? Sometimes we're going to have issues. Okay, so this is where arguably your personal values or your personal brand or the synergy of those two, if you're with the right client, won't result necessarily in now let's have an argument about why this mistake happened potentially, right?
You just said something that I really resonated with. Well, going back to what you said first, what if they don't like you? Am I mean for just thinking if they don't like me, that's good? Because if they don't like me, they already know they're not. They've made a decision saying they're not part of the people that I want to convert anyway. Because that's the whole point. Like your personal brand isn't just to attract people; it's also to deter people who are not the right caliber or not the right type of client for you from interacting with you. So if someone's like, oh, Johnny, I don't really like him. Like he comes across this way. I know you're probably not the person I want to work with anyway. And it's not because you're bad. It's just because I know what I'm putting out there, and I'm putting the content I'm putting out there is meant to be for a certain type of entrepreneur, a certain type of business. And if you don't resonate with that is fine. We don't have to work together. It's not by force.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. And I think, something that one of the, I guess, the big things that I came to a couple of years ago was this concept of, no, actually, we're working in a partnership. This is the difference between I'm a business and we're choosing to work together out of choice rather than you're employing me as an employee. And employing me as an employee is, in exchange for salary, I'm doing what? Okay, fantastic. But as an employee and someone who chooses to choose suppliers and etc., and personally, I would, and I'm sure you would be the same, I would only want to work with people who connect with my ideology or connect with my understanding, and I can actually work with in a cohesive manner, and we're not going to be having to have a heated or debate conversation about the logistics of who's the video expert here, for example, right? Either I'm being brought in as that, and you trust that is what I am, and we're able to work through your objectives, and there's a reasoning behind why, and I'm not going to question your expertise, so to speak, because why else would you be hiring me, right? You could do it yourself, right? If you're there, and that's why I think that sometimes part of our marketing and why we look at marketing funnels the way we do, and why me and you both are very good at what we do, is we say, hey, look, this is who I'm looking to talk to. If this isn't who you are, that's cool. All the love in the world to you, but let's not work together, because I think it would be a waste of your time more specifically as a client, right? It's not necessarily about me saying, oh, my time is more important. No, it's not that at all. It's about simply saying, we clearly are not going to see eye to eye. We're clearly not going to be able to work cohesively together, and we're clearly not going to be able to make you more money, which at the crux is what we're both trying to do, right? And that comes from being able to work effectively. And the only way to do that is if we're not having these button heads, these issues, these concerns. Now, I'm not saying, as I say, I'm not going to say it's all been plain sailing, because it absolutely will, and there will be problems. But I think the reality that's coming into effect now is people are really showing who they, I would argue, truly are in respect to how they react when they're under stress, and how they act when they're under, I guess, survival, you could say. Have you found in your own experience, whether that's now or previously, that people do act quite differently when things are more strained economically?
I think people act like this all the time.
Okay.
I do think it's accelerated more when there's less clients and stuff to go around. But I think the reason why I say people act like this all the time is because it's going to sound bad. Most people who are trying to do this very thing are not that good. And it's not because everyone else at the top is way better. Funnily enough, most of the people that aren't that good are better skill-wise than the people at the top. The people at the top are usually just more consistent. Like showing up is a superpower in its own. The only reason why most of the people who have that huge following on LinkedIn or Instagram, most of the people who have that huge email list, or people who convert people consistently, the only reason why they're so good, it's not by accident. And this is where people get tripped up. They look at other people and they're like, oh, this person has so much because they know this person or because they've been affiliated with that company. And no, you don't know their full story. 9 times out of 10, it's because they've put the work in, they put the grind in, and they're continually doing it. And it's got to a point where them grinding and carrying on doing this stuff, like posting online or doing your newsletter posts continuously, them doing that, the YouTube videos, the podcasts, them doing that consistently isn't even a grind anymore. It's literally them showing up to work. Whereas a lot of other people at home, like, oh, I need to, seen as this works for this person, this works for that person, this works for that person. I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. Oh, wait, it's not working 3 months later. Okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. And when you continually do that, there's no stability at all. There's no consistency either. People don't know who you are. At least they don't know who you are for a main specific thing. And that really hurts your brand in the long run.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. And, it reminds me of a gaming analogy, I alluded to in the pre-show to you. I came from a gaming background. It reminds me of, in World of Warcraft, we call it Flavor of the Month, right? Which is like, oh, there's been these new changes and this class is really powerful and etc. And I think we can have this approach sometimes in marketing as well, right? Especially when we saw like the rise of ChatGPT or the rise of TikTok or, podcasting becoming really popular, etc. People go, oh my God, that's got loads of attention. Oh my God, there's this new thing. Let's abandon the ship that's completely fine and moving in its own direction and now try and build a brand new one really quickly. It seems a really odd way of doing it, right? I'm not saying ignore what's taking place. I'm not saying ignore the shiny things. I'm saying just don't jump on them necessarily right away to say if something's working, stay working, stay committed to it. But also if the traction is moving away from what you're doing, actually that's a good thing, right? So let's say for example, in a world where email marketing isn't the cool thing to do. Okay, well, surely by the fact that you're,
to do now.
You know what I mean? But like, surely that's a good thing for you, right? Like, yeah. surely by the fact that you're saying, no, I'm going to stay and I believe in this and I'm staying, arguably video is cool, right? So, oh, cool, I'm great, I'm in a great position. But what if one day video is not cool anymore?
I think people need to understand. You don't need to just pick one thing. Like, I do email marketing and I'm good at it. Fair enough. But I also produce good content. At least I believe it's good content. Before I knew it was bad, but seeing as I'm getting enough people converting on it, I would say it's good. And I think that's more down to my consistency. In terms of video content, I do video content, just not a lot of it. And what I have to say about everything is, you don't need to double down on one thing. You should double down on one thing to learn it, but it's good to diversify afterwards if you feel like you can actually do more things as well. And 2, if you're doing something continuously and you're seeing it's not working after 6 months, it might be time to try something new. Like, just as I'm saying consistency helps, like flogging a dead horse doesn't really help you much too. Like, you need to kind of know when to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the definition of insight is doing the same thing repeatedly, especially as a result, right? But there's a difference, I think, between we've been doing this a long time and we're not getting a tiny percent better every day, right? Number one. Number two, it's not working, as in it's not generating interest, likes, views, whatever your metric that you're looking at is, work, leads, so on, depending on what you're looking at, depending on how you're looking at it. But also, how much do you enjoy doing it is the other factor I don't think we look at, right? Like, if I hate the idea of email marketing, I'm probably not going to do email marketing, right? Now, yes, we can look at it purely from a tangible business, is it generating me leads point of view, and absolutely you should. But also something I personally would consider and would ask the audience member to consider is, what method of marketing, podcasting, writing, posting, emailing, content creation, networking, etc., do you actually enjoy as well? Because you're more likely, especially at the beginning, correct me if you disagree, but especially at the beginning, you're more likely to do more of that thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
which in turn would then mean you gain more momentum in the concept of marketing as a whole, in turn moving that ball down the road. And then if you want to look at doing video, then if you want to look at doing podcasting, then you want to look at doing email marketing, you're in a stronger position to be able to do that.
I would agree with that. Mainly, that's why I would say you need to look at what's working. You need to test it out for yourself. Like, you don't always need to have an original idea with this stuff, but just look at what's working, test it out for yourself, see what works for you, and then adapt your plan accordingly. Like, I would never advise anyone to go into just a completely new type of content or new sector they've never even touched before, mainly because you're going to find it very difficult. It takes time for you to adapt, but I do think you need to test and see what's going to work for you and what doesn't.
I also think there's a point though that says that you should also look at the timeline historically, right? Like if you've done email marketing and it averagely takes say 3 months to convert someone, let's say, right?
Ooh.
Okay, so then why are you now expecting it to suddenly be a month? Right? Or the same with your content, or the same with whatever marketing strategy you're using.
Yeah.
You know what? Yes, you may be in a position where you need the work more so. Okay, but perhaps then develop a strategy that's more short-term cash flow generated, such as cold sales, cold emails, cold phone calls, etc., 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 referral programs, glam slam offers. I can continue forever, right? There's specific strategies, and that's why I said earlier in the show, a business owner should be multifaceted and multi-skill-setted in the respect to, okay, where does my attention and focus need to be to survive to the midterm and long term if you're in a short-term cash flow crunch, right? Because look, we can sit here in cloud cuckoo land and say, oh, it's wonderful to do all this marketing and it takes 3 months. But the reality of the fact is, if you're going to go bust at the end of the month because you can't hit the money you need to hit, you need a short-term cash flow solution, no?
100% right. But it's a catch-22, isn't it? So, okay, what would you say is the best short-term marketing plan?
There isn't one short term for marketing, no, because you need to go. I would argue you need to go directly to sales. You need to cut the entire. Like you might get lucky, right, and you might get a perfect client that's going to pay you a significant money and it fixes all your problems. Hooray! Good for us, we won. But that's the timing lottery, right? It's not. I don't see it as like when I need to create cash quickly, I don't go to market, as in marketing. Right? Everything I do with marketing is to understand it's going to take 3 to 6, maybe 12, maybe 18 months for this to mean that I create revenue out of thin air, right?
You do realize that you are like one of the top 1% of the top 1% who understand that. Most people do not get that. They just think, in fact, sales and marketing has become the same thing to a lot of people.
It unfortunately it'd be very very easy for us to say it is. It's not. They're different skill sets and very quickly for the audience's sake and potentially your case as well. Feel free to knit this if you want. From my understanding of it and my experience, you have a triangle. Let's call it a triangle, right? Awareness, nurture, conversion, right? As your marketing. Then you have a different triangle at the bottom of the conversion part of marketing, which is information gathering, continued nurture, and then closing. Right, which allows that process. So from one to the other, it's a funnel into a funnel, right? So what you actually want is the ideal clients to go into the top of the sales funnel, and then the percentage of those ideal clients who end up actually not being ideal clients when they understand how much you cost, or they understand that you have this, whatever it may be, there'll be some bottleneck or some issue, and some reason why you're not going to synergize, then they should fall out of the sales funnel as well. The ones that hit the bottom that you can then close are the ones that you actually care about, are the ones you need to connect with, are the ones that are going to be the long-term clients for you. And keep in mind, long-term clients, not, oh, I won them today and they make 10 grand tomorrow. No, the lifetime value of those clients will be significant, but potentially the first win is only going to be a couple of £100, or the first win maybe only £1,000, etc. Right? And I think sometimes we can get very comfortable or we don't do the action as fast impact enough when we need to actually get there, if that makes sense.
I really like your description. That has to be the best description I've heard of anyone talking about sales and marketing at the same time. The triangle and the triangle. I I think that's you need to talk about it like that more often because that was perfect.
It's
It's
it,
completely right.
it's it's something that I've started talking to coaching clients about, and also talking to when I do it in content, etc. Because so many people and I was privy to this, right? I thought for a very long time marketing is also sales. No, it's not, right? As I
Close.
just alluded to, it's not. It's
They work
close, and they
closely.
work synergy and they work together, sure. And you can't have one without the other. But you need to understand, being very honest, and also you need to be very honest with yourself. Where are you right now in regards to your business? Do you need to create short-term cash flow? Okay, is that your reality? If so, you better get very good at that strategy or those set of skills very quickly. All right? Unfortunately, that's the reality, okay? And if you're not, you will become hardened to those skills, right? I'm sure I and you have both had that reality, right? More times than we care to mention, right? That's an unfortunate reality, especially as things get harder. That's going to become more and more reality. But what you can't do when you're also in that situation, because number one, you're going to burn yourself out and you'll physically just mentally won't be able to do it because it's harder. It's really hard to do cold a lot. And you can do it and it does make you money. Yes, it does. But the best way is to do warm simultaneously. Because then, as you fix the short-term problems, the work you've been doing mid-term and long-term will then come into action from your marketing point of view. So, and this is why I have the analogy of, if there's a problem, you have to outwork it. Because you don't just have to fix the short-term problem, you also then have to do all the other stuff whilst you're doing that to create the mid-term and long-term demand, right? The crux, what would you say, like, let's say you have a client or you have a friend and they don't know what to do, right? They're in this position where they're sat there going, right, I've got £1,000 in the bank. That will cover me for like a month, maybe a month and a half if I really stretch it. What do I do?
I would say well, I'd look at what they have so far. So, and this is actually really important. Are they an active participant of social media? I'm asking, are they an active participant of social media?
Okay, let's say they come back to you and say, I don't know what that means.
So they got what?
So they don't know what that means. What does that mean to you?
There we go. So they're completely new, which means they people automatically want me to start doing cold email marketing for them straight away. Because I do cold email and I do warm email as well. The problem with cold email is a lot of people, I think, are doing it wrong. What they'll do is they'll get one message and spam it to 10,000 people. Even with cold email, you still need to put some personalization in it. In my eyes, it's a lot longer, but doing research on each person you're sending this message to makes a world of difference. People come back to you a lot more receptive. They remember you a lot more, and you close a lot more people faster. You'll end up sending like a tenth of the amount of messages because of all of the work you're going to do. But if you're making money per client, like it's going to be worth it. I would always advise people who have no idea what they're doing in marketing in the beginning to start, funny enough, not even with email, to start on social media. Because your email, as I said before, it really should be for conversion and nurturing. It's not really a great attraction tool. It works in the whole attraction stuff, but it's not fantastic at that. Social media is way better. Find out who you're actually targeting on social media, put out a product or a freebie or something, get people to subscribe into your newsletter or your email list, then market to them. Market to them as much as you want. Because on social media, as you know, like on LinkedIn or Instagram, you can put a post out and most of the people in your audience don't even see it. But with your newsletter, if you send an email to 50,000 people on your email list, all 50,000 of them should get it, as long as you don't have any deliverability issues. So you have complete. This is why I say it's a business asset, because you got complete control over who gets what.
I think.
So,
I think there's no. I was just gonna say. I think there's no. You, as we've already alluded to, and I think the main takeaway from an audience member listening to this would be, you should do as many as you can sustain. Is the answer, I think, there, right, from a long-term, mid-term point of view. But very quickly on the short-term point of view that I'm really glad you mentioned. When I talk about cold sales, I'm not talking about let's send 50,000 messages of the same beat.
It hurts my head when I see that.
beat it repeatedly, right? The classic one is, hey, coach, do you have this problem? I can double your coaching revenue in 5 minutes, right? Now, obviously, that was a piss take, obviously, right? But the crux there is actually going to the market, right? When you do cold, the idea is to say, hey, understand who you're emailing, understand who you're talking to. What's the established relationship previously? Okay, if you're going down your own network, which is where I'd recommend everyone start, because there's very likely to be 1 or 2 people who probably are on the fence about working with you already, and that's actually not a cold outreach at that point. That's a mid to warm, maybe hot cold. Like, we're not really at cold level there. We're actually saying, hey, by the way, I've got this glam slam offer. You may want to take advantage of it because it's not going to be here forever, right? That's actually a better solution and something I would start with instead of going down the cold approach. Now, cold approach isn't even cold either, because if you're doing it properly, what you're doing is saying, hey, company, hey, person, I noticed you have this
always
issue.
Person.
It will always be a person, right? But sometimes we reach out to a company's email and say, hey, to whoever this may, get to, this is targeted towards, or this is meant to be towards the marketing team. Would love to talk to them about some of the things I've seen on your website that I think you could do better. Or, hey, have you thought about doing this? Here's a really cool idea. And funnily enough, we can help you actually support that, etc. That is doing research, rough research, granted, right? But research nonetheless on who you're sending and who you're trying to connect with, right? You're not just, I guess, in some ways, trying to brute force the market. You can try that, sure, and sometimes that works, but it's less. Every time we talk about this layer of like warmth, so cold up to hot, it increases the probability that more people are going to say yes to you, because they're more likely to build trust. They've already more likely built like or trust with you, which means you don't have to pull them as far in the sales conversation, right? Or you don't have to bring them in as far or warm them up, so to speak, within that conversation. Now, of course, when you're doing cold, you might win the timing lottery, right? I might have a promotional video deal that's incredibly good and incredibly appealing, and the 4 people I talk to might absolutely need a promotional video there and then because they've just launched a new product, just launched a new website, but that's the timing lottery.
No, it happens. It happens more often than you think if you craft the right messaging. And also, you need to remember, like what you said with cold outreach, not necessarily just being cold. People think, oh, I'm sending messages to these people and that is where it ends. I don't know about you, but when I was working in corporate, whenever we received the cold outreach, what would happen is we'd get that message, anyone in the team would get that message, we'll speak to everyone else, like kind of in the team, kind of like, do you know this company? Do you know these people? Especially if it's something that we could use. If it's something we could use, we'll go back to the person. If it's something we can't use, we'll just ignore the email. Also, we'll look them up online. Like, there's so much that goes, like, email marketing is email marketing, but you need to realize the reason why I keep telling people start putting content out on social media is because 1, it's free. 2, people look you up, and that can actually affect whether you convert or not.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think that's a really important point. And I'm going to quote a client who gave me a really nice testimonial that hasn't been released yet. It might have been by the time this comes out, but it was in crux the reasoning behind why he. I'm going to very quickly paraphrase, and I will post a testimonial at some point, but the very quick paraphrase was, I chose Colton because of his website and his content presence. That's the reason, right? Now, especially as a content seller, what I sell is content creation, okay? Yeah. Let's not beat around the bush. That's what I sell, right? So I should be, right, really good at content. I should be really, really, really polished on social, because that's my portfolio. That's where people are going to look. And something that I think some people may have misunderstood when it comes to cold is exactly that point. Because yes, you may win the timing lottery, but also they will make a decision related to the stuff that you won't even be able to see. So the stuff you put out publicly will change their reaction. So let's say, for example, you're a video production company and you're saying, hey, we believe in video. It's a great idea. I go to your website, it's got no video on it. I go to your social media, it's got no videos on it. I go to your YouTube channel, it's got no videos on it.
That is a big. A lot of companies have paid for that very mistake. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, would you believe a video production company if I'm like in the sales school, right? Video's best idea, guys. Got to do video. Great idea. And then you look them up, and that's the reality.
Terrible.
It's going to send alarm bells, no? Because you're going to be like, well, clearly you don't believe in it. Why do you not have it? What's going on here? And that's the first thing I say when I talk to video people is like, even if you're a camera operator, you should have content out there. Now, I get it. It's difficult because you are hired by video production companies, and it might be difficult for you, because of how you release stuff and when and blah. But that doesn't stop you creating content on the side. That
You
doesn't
can make
stop
content
you.
based on your knowledge anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't stop you talking into a camera and or etc. Or even just like doing little videos like little passion projects etc. to have some presence there and keep it semi updated every couple of months. You don't always have to be as pushy or as consistent as me. Sure, but at least have something there so when I go there, it's like, okay, cool, that makes sense. Ideally, yes, of course, be posting regularly. Yes, of course, have that infrastructure there to help keep your visibility high, right? And then maybe look at adding in those other elements. How does the comms work, etc.? And then you're starting to get into very complicated levels of marketing because you're then talking about how do we keep the comms similar across our newsletter, across our blog, across our videos, across our podcast, etc. So it's cohesive. But if you're the main person as a solo entrepreneur who's doing it, it's going to be. So don't worry about it because it's you writing it. And this is where your personal brand comes in. This is where, etc. If you're doing email marketing, this is where it can be really powerful. But for those who've really enjoyed this conversation, who really want to connect with you, want to hear some more about email marketing, etc., etc., where's best to reach out to you, my friend?
It used to be Instagram, but now it's LinkedIn. I've kind of transitioned across a little bit. I still post on both platforms, but I would say yeah, LinkedIn. So it's really easy to find me, Johnny Moru on LinkedIn. And yeah, you'll see loads of content based on email marketing, lead generation, and funny enough, some content creation pieces, but I don't focus on it too much.
Fantastic. And for those who may be listening to this, taking inspiration and are looking to take the step into entrepreneurship or continue the step into entrepreneurship in the next 6 months to 12, what advice, if you were going to give advice, would you give those people?
I would say, one, you're making a good decision. Like, entrepreneurship is amazing once it works. The only thing is you need to get it to work to begin with. So I would always say, make sure that you have a buffer in terms of how much money you've saved up. Point one. Point two, be consistent. Like, it's not going to be you're not going to get instant results. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen to you, great. If it doesn't happen to you, if you already know that it's not going to happen, you're not going to be in a bad situation. Just make sure you plan out accordingly. That's what I would say. Consistency, planning out, and just start.
Thanks so much for joining me, ladies and gents. I hope you took value from mine and Johnny's conversation. If you did and want to be subscribed, you can always take it back if the content is not for you, and it's for free, of course. Thank you ever so much for joining me once again. I'll be back next week with a brand new interview, talking to someone else about something exciting to increase the demand in your business in 2024. So thank you ever so much for joining me once again, and I'll see you very, very soon.